Welcome to MoocLab's interview series, Life-Changing Experiences of Learning with MOOCs. My name is Carolyn McIntyre. I'm CEO of MoocLab.club, a community website connecting people to online learning. Today I'll be talking to Esther Gacicio, who is an Assistant Director with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, where she's in charge of e-learning for the Institute's clientele. Esther holds a master's degree in education and a graduate diploma in leadership development in ICT and Knowledge Society from Dublin City University. Esther has overseen the development of various online programs, both regionally and globally, and she initiated an award-winning online program called Elimika, which offers online courses to the Institute's clientele. So now we'll be going over to Nairobi to meet Esther. Hello, Esther.
Hi, Caroline. How are you?
I'm very well, Esther. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
It's great to have you on the interview series, so thank you very much for taking part.
Thank you for having me too.
That's great, Esther. Could you start, Esther, by telling us a little bit about your background and your education path up until now?
You actually rightfully said it. I hold a master's degree in education. Of course, my bachelor's degree is also in education. I am trained in new learning technologies from various institutions, Teleacademia being one of them, and the University of Colombo School of Computing in Sri Lanka is another. I also hold a graduate diploma in leadership development in ICT and Knowledge Society from the Dublin City University. Above that, I've trained in various other professional courses, mainly in the area of e-learning and online course production. Thank you.
Okay, great. So how did you become involved with e-learning in the first place?
Interesting question, Caroline, because I actually landed on it by chance. I was one person who really didn't like computers. And I remember that I did my master's using someone else to type out my work and all that. And then it only took a brief encounter with my boss where we disagreed about something, and it was so bad that I had to move from the same office. And I was deployed temporarily in the e-learning section, awaiting for further deployment. But fortunately, after a few days in the e-learning section, I got the hang of it. I got interested in the area, and that turned everything around. From there, I got an opportunity to do my courses in e-learning technology from Sri Lanka. And that is where I started off working on my project, which was the Elimika program. And going forward, that program has won various awards, as we're going to talk about later. And apparently this year in July, I also got the e-learning Excellence in E-Learning Award from the World Education Congress held in Mumbai.
Wow, congratulations. That's quite a journey from going from being a completely non-e-learning type of person to actually developing your own programs and winning awards. So
thank you.
That's very impressive.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your award-winning program, Elimika?
Elimika is a program that we started developing from the Institute. And why we did come up with it is because one of the mandates that the Institute has is of training teachers on new changes in curriculum development and the delivery of it. And what had been happening is that we would do face-to-face programs, and these face-to-face programs were not working very well because first, the costs, two, the geographical distribution, and three, the cascade method, as you know, doesn't work very well because what you give is not what the last person gets. So as a result, myself and a team of us decided to come up to try out something else where we could engage more teachers in a one-on-one, but using technology. And that is how Elimika was born. And we developed it, again, coming from an environment, a government environment where resources are very scarce. We thought of looking for technology that is free. And therefore, we developed our program on a free software, which was Chisimba at the time, though now we have moved to Moodle. And we're able to bring in all our content that we use for training on this platform and customized it and gave it a Kenyan name so that it could be accepted and adopted, bearing in mind this is something that was very new in the country and with several other challenges, including attitude and lack of technology and so on. We needed to find a way of having it to get bought in. And therefore, we named it Elimika, which means educated, to Kenyanize it and to get it to be adopted. And we run our programs on it, and it's tutor supported, so that at least we encourage the users to be on board all the time and not feel lonely, not feel like throwing in the towel when things are tough. So that's what the program is about.
Right, that's really interesting. And what courses does the platform offer?
When we started the program with a staff induction course. We needed to start from somewhere because we had not tried this before. It hadn't been tried out in Kenya before. So we needed to start somewhere so that we could see how it worked. And therefore, we started by having a staff induction program for the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Developers staff who are joining the institute, where we would orientate them without putting them in an office, but have a 3-month program where, while they are still attached to their various programs, they could still undergo the course online. At that time, we put everything in as far as the institute was concerned, online, supported by the specialists in those areas. So with the successful implementation of the staff induction course, which was our first course, then we thought we could expand further and bring in our other clientele. And we brought in the primary school teachers. These are the teachers who teach below the secondary level, and see how we could train them on how to effectively implement the curriculum. And the training was to go live, it was to be online. And we enrolled teachers from across the country running on the same program. And that became our second program that we are running on Elimika. Then the third program that we have been running on Elimika is a program that is intended to demystify and unpack the Kenyan Constitution, which was promulgated in 2010, and which has continually, which is continually being implemented as the time goes. And therefore, we came up with a public program open to the Kenyan citizen on how to understand what the curriculum is all about, what the Constitution is all about, what their roles are as citizens, and what they need to look out as it is implemented. So therefore, that makes our third program. We have so far 3 programs. Looking forward, we are working on various other programs to run on Elimika.
Okay, so the one about the Constitution, that's open to absolutely everybody in Kenya, is it?
Yes, it is open to every citizen in Kenya. It's very simplified. You know, the Constitution is written by lawyers with the lawyer jargon, which most of us do not understand. So we unpacked that to make it very easy for any Kenyan to understand, and also especially also for the students that who are also learning constitutional issues in school, so that they are also able to understand and follow. So the Constitution program is open for any Kenyan citizen. It's a very simple way of understanding every aspect of that Constitution and what it entails.
Okay, and what sort of take-up have you had for that? Do you know how many people have used the program?
We've had a little challenge in that because we were working with an NGO, a civil society, to develop that program. And the idea had been that once it is developed, then we would have it deployed or linked to every other institution and any other organization where they could fall back on it. But that did not really happen. We didn't finish the program that way. And so we've had a challenge in that not very many people know that it exists. Therefore, the intake has not been that big. But in regard to the teachers who use our platform a lot, they take it, they look into it all the time. And also maybe a few of those that the civil society was able to reach out. But we would like it to be widely used and accessed to every Kenyan. And the only way to do that is through advocacy, to let them know that actually it exists, which is the area that we have not worked very well on.
Okay, and what's the situation in Kenya with regard to people having the technology to be able to use online courses like this?
We are working on it because Kenya has really done a lot in regard to laying out the infrastructure. As you may be aware, we have 3 fiber optic running across the country. We are working on the last mile in most of the villages. So therefore, with the infrastructure laid down, then we are hoping that the uptake also will go up. We are looking at the various Kenyans who have access to mobile technology, because that's the easiest access point that we have, and more so mobile technology that can access internet. And we are talking about almost 75 to 80% of Kenyans who can actually access connectivity using their mobile applications. So if that is going to be enforced and Kenyans get to know what they're supposed to do, then the uptake is going to be big. In regard to the fiber optic, as I've said, in the laying out of the infrastructure and connectivity, it's across the country. When you look at issues to do with education as well, the government is going to be rolling out computers for every child in grade 1 across the country. That means that every primary school will access some form of technology or the other. So if the community is brought together, then I believe, and well sensitized on how to leverage on this technology, then I believe that the uptake of technology will be much higher. We are not there yet, but I guess that the future is bright for us.
Yeah, exciting times. That's fantastic. And what about the teaching clientele? Have they embraced the Elimika project? Do they use it a lot?
Yes, they do, because partly what has happened is that their employer also acknowledges the program, because we haven't had any such programs in Kenya for especially professional development. And therefore, when they go through the program, then they get some bit of what do I say? Like their employer would give them either a promotion or they give them an increment in salary. Then they are also used to train others. And therefore, this has encouraged many of them to come on board. So we are actually trying to see how we can expand the program so that we can have many more during each intake, because we only take about 200 per intake because of the number of tutors that we have. And we realize that tutor support is one of the key factors that make the program succeed. So as we expand our tutor base, then we shall be expanding also the number of people who are taken in at every given time. Because remember, the program is a long program. It's an 8-month program, and they do 8 modules. And we are looking at ways of having it been a continuous process where we have an intake every other time and have quite a broad number of teachers. Because if we are going to get to all the teachers, then we need to expand that. Our hope is that we are looking at reaching out to about 200,000 teachers in Kenya through the program. Wow. Yes, which is quite massive. And therefore, we are also trying to see how best we can expand in terms of how many do we have and how many do we churn out every other time.
Great. So you use the term massive, which leads us on nicely to MOOCs. Which,
yes.
Are you familiar with MOOCs?
Yes, I am.
So this is something that potentially could become maybe the first Kenyan MOOC platform, do you think?
I believe it can. I believe it can. Only that we probably would need to change our way of looking at it and look at our target as well. Because in MOOCs, we are talking about massive open online courses. And so far, we don't have as many courses. But we are hoping that.
Welcome back to MoocLab's interview series, where unfortunately we lost the connection with Esther Gacicio in Nairobi, but she is now back online with us. So we'll carry on where we left off. I was asking Esther whether she felt that her online program Elimika could potentially become Kenya's first MOOC platform. So Esther, if you don't mind starting your answer again to that question.
Thank you, Caroline. I'm sorry for having gotten lost, but I'm back. Yes, I believe that Elimika can be a MOOC platform in Africa, especially when we look at what we intend to do. As much as we do not have enough courses at the moment, with our large clientele of over 200,000 teachers, I believe it's a starting point, and we could come up with all this. What we've been trying to do, even as we move forward, is that we want to encourage teachers to develop their own content, as opposed to having content that is developed and pushed to them. So we want them to start generating their content, and content that they can use for their own teaching and learning processes, and which also the other teachers can buy and get, can borrow from in the process of making sure that we have quality education. So in this regard, therefore, I believe that we can actually make to be a MOOC platform in the near future.
That's great. So sort of working on the sort of crowd-sourced idea that teachers generate their own content, which is then shared amongst other teachers, which is a great initiative. Do you think that Kenyan education in general is ready to embrace MOOC type of courses as a type of teaching in the national curriculum?
That's a very interesting question, because MOOCs in our country is a very new thing. It hasn't really been taken up very, very well, because partly as Africans, we like to understand things, interrogate them more before we can take them in. And basically, e-learning being a very new area, we actually have like baby steps to first and foremost accept that we can do online programs. The universities themselves in Kenya have just started having e-campuses, though they are still entrenched in their own traditional way. And I think we need a lot of maybe education, a lot of advocacy for MOOCs to take root in Kenya. But I believe that with the way the government is going, with rolling out of technology across board, it's just a matter of time. If we are able to train and sensitize the Kenyan population, then it could actually be accepted in the near future.
That's great. Are you aware of any other similar programs that exist in other African countries? Or are you the leader in this?
For Elimika program, I guess we are the only ones so far I know, because we've been working with various countries who would want to borrow what we are doing and entrench it in their own countries. But in terms of having e-campuses and online programs, there are quite a number now, because most of the universities now in Kenya have e-campuses alongside the traditional mode. So it's an area that with time is growing. And I think with proper education and proper advocacy, even these universities, we should be able to generate and get involved in MOOCs as well, and accept the idea of MOOCs.
I think we have lost Esther again, unfortunately, but I'm sure she will be back as soon as possible. Welcome back again to our interview series, where we are talking to Esther Gacicio, who is based in Nairobi. So Esther, you have experience of both traditional learning as well as experience with e-learning. How do you think the two compare as far as a learning experience is concerned?
Looking at both of them, each one of them has their own good sides. Of course, traditional face-to-face anytime is always good, because you're able to interact with one another on a one-on-one, and you can read anything, including the emotions, which is not always the case when it goes to online learning. But when you look again at online learning, then you remove the space and the boundaries and the barriers that exist in learning environment, so that you're able to learn at any time, anywhere, at your own pace. And you're able to get the same kind of knowledge that you'd have gotten into when you had a traditional environment. Then in terms of costs, again, when you look at the traditional way, it's a bit expensive in that you have to get yourself into a physical environment. Then from that physical environment, then you need to have so many other things for you to be able to operate. In terms of cost, it becomes very expensive. But when you look at the online environment, it's much cheaper because you really don't have to transport yourself to an online a classroom situation, but you can access whatever it is that you want, wherever it is that you are, and at the times that you are. So I would, I'm actually a very big advocate of having the online way of training, especially coming from where we are coming from in the Elimika program, where previously we could only access very few teachers at a time. But now we're able to give the same kind of training to all the teachers, irrespective of where they are based. So therefore, we are able to ensure that we still have quality. We are able to ensure that you can monitor what is going on, which is not normally the case when it comes to the traditional format.
Yes, some very valid advantages of online learning there. The e-learning market is a market which is developing very, very quickly globally. How do you see the future of online education on the African continent?
Definitely, Africa has no choice. It has to join in this, especially looking at how the technology is revolving and advancing every single day. And knowing the fact that it is here with us. Like, for instance, if you look at something like a mobile phone, almost every other person has a mobile phone today, meaning that technology is here with us. And with it being here with us, then we have no choice but adapting and working with it. So therefore, I'm seeing that in Africa, especially because of the trends that have already started happening, with the government backing technology, especially here in Kenya, we have almost everywhere and everything going technology. We have mobile money, we have e-shopping, we have so many e-banking, and everything has gone technology. So it means that even education has no choice but go that direction. If we look at certain aspects of the use of Web 2 or Web 3.0, where people are interacting on social media every other day, that's a beginning of learning. So I believe that this will go further, even to be engaged or to be brought into the actual teaching and learning environment. So in my opinion, going forward, I think Africa is ready for technology. It is already using technology. All we need to do is embrace it more, especially in the field of education, which is a bit slow compared to other factors and other areas where technology has already taken root.
Yeah, that's very true. I think globally that's the case. And finally, Esther, what is your goal with Elimika? Where do you want to take it?
Good question. I have a very big vision for it. I'm looking at it as in the last couple of weeks, I've been involved in developing various programs for teachers, especially in ICT integration in education, and more so for delivery of the digital learning program that the government has undertaken to deliver coming January next year. Having developed that program, it's a blended course, and therefore there will be an online version for it. And my feel is that I would want to see this program available to every teacher in Kenya through Elimika. So again, that tells you that it's going to be a very expanded program going forward. Secondly, I'm looking at it at various other options where teachers, I'm talking about teachers mainly because those are the people I work a lot with. We having them required to professionally upgrade themselves. Every year they're expected to do a course or the other. So we are looking forward in the coming years to develop various other teacher professional development programs for the teachers so that they are able to develop themselves without necessarily having to go into an enclosure, into a physical environment. Therefore, Elimika is going to be that vehicle where they can advance themselves or they can progress themselves through the various programs that we are going to put on board. I'm also looking forward to there's a question you had put forward earlier about where we see women in technology. That's another project I want to have, where we are trying to bring on board as many women as possible to use technology in whatever it is that they're doing. You'll find majority of the teachers again, teachers are women. You'll find people who are doing farming are women. How can we leverage technology in their day-to-day activities? This is one of the other things that I'll be looking at, just as we have looked at understanding the constitution for the citizenry through Elimika. Then we would also want to see us working with the women in the country, the youth in the country, on how to use technology in their day-to-day living. So I'm seeing Elimika going forward in the next few years in broadening that area and probably be a one-stop shop for e-learning solutions.
That's really exciting stuff there, Esther, and I congratulate you on what you've achieved so far, and I wish you all the success with the future development of Elimika, which is a great initiative and a testament to women and women in Africa, which is down to you. So well done, and it's been absolutely great meeting you and listening to what you have to say. So I thank you for taking part in this interview series with us.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for having me on board. Thank you. I
You're
will
welcome.
be willing to come on board again when we don't have such internet connectivity issues again.
Well, it's part of the package, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it is. Yes.
All right. Well, lovely talking to you, and we'll see you again soon, I hope.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, Esther.
Bye, Caroline.